let me just ask one more question. I know there's more to the world than the Middle East, but you know, we are partnering with Sergei Lavrov as our diplomatic partner to try to hopefully come out with an acceptable outcome in Syria. And yet the Russians sent 2,000 unmarked troops into Crimea, took it. They're clearly on the ground in eastern Ukraine. It changed the strategic sort of complexion in Europe and NATO. And they were very much the new concern of many of the Joint Chiefs have said Russia is our #1 concern now. And yet we are embracing partnership with the JCPOA and with Syria. Are you satisfied that we have the right approach to sort of Russia's ambitions in the world?
Well, the first thing the Russians tried to do with the JCPOA was they were, with our Secretary of State, they pressed him on changing the wording from Iran shall not move forward with ballistic missiles to Iran shall be called upon not to. And we accepted that change, and so now that's the new UN resolution. So we shouldn't be too surprised that now the Russians say, hey, by the way, they're not in violation. You agreed to those changes, to that change, and so technically, arguably, they're not in violation as they test their new capacity for ICBM. This shows you the attitude, unfortunately, of the Russians in this. I would say myself and Elliot Engel took a delegation of 8 members, 4 Republicans and 4 Democrats, into Ukraine. We went as far east as we could go. We actually flew a little plane into Dnipropetrovsk in the east, which is the heart of the Russian-speaking region of Ukraine in the east. We talked there with women's groups, minority groups, lawyers groups, civil society. We spoke to Jewish groups, mayor. We got the same answer from everybody, which is, look, we've got our differences of opinion with Kyiv, but we are willing to take Poroshenko's offer. We keep our culture out here. We keep our language out here, and in exchange, we want to be part of the Russian government, of the government in Ukraine, because we don't want the Russians here. They say, here's what the Russians are doing. They're sneaking in Russian speakers. We can tell because the accent's a little different. And, they're getting every malcontent and every skinhead that Putin's people can find on the internet, training them, sending them here to create trouble. That's not our problem. We can find these guys. We're holding them in the brig. Our problem is the Russian armor out there. And we don't have anti-tank weapons to defeat that armor. And the administration will not allow us to have them and block other people from giving them. Now, I know the administration has a certain concept here that we don't want to expand upon. But when you've got an active situation in the eastern part of Ukraine where you're not allowing people to defend themselves, remember what Churchill said when he got angry with us because we couldn't make a decision. He said, give us, the ability to defend ourselves, right? Give us the tools. That was his appeal to the West, and that's what we did early in the war. We gave them the tools. If we give the tools to the Ukrainians in the East to put further pressure on Russia, it might be possible, at least the Ukrainians certainly believe this, to change the dynamics and convince at least the Russians to pull back out of Luhansk and Donetsk and cut a deal to have the sanctions lifted, right, which would happen immediately after they would do that. And we can get back to a dialogue about our mutual interests. And boy, there's one we really share, and that's what's happening with radicalization around the world. And in southern Russia, that's a huge problem. I would like to see if we couldn't at least try something that our allies want us and need us to do, because others are watching. And in the Baltic states, they're saying, well, look, are you going to allow the Ukrainians to defend themselves against the Russian armor in there? Of course, the Russians are claiming, well, that's not our armor, those are volunteers. But you and I all know that's a facade, that's a Potemkin village. So Those are Russian units of armor operating in the east, and that's what is the biggest problem.